Hi, everybody. This is Virginia Milner coming to you again on behalf of the DeKalb County Library System. And we have another program for you today, another mixed media. I'm going to be doing a few of those because I want to show you how to mix up your components, how to use cord, how to use leather, how to use wire, and how to use them all together so that you don't have to just do one or the other. So today we're going to be doing earrings. I get so many requests for earrings. So we're going to do earrings today, and we're going to do a combination of leather and wire. So that's going to be our focus. The first one that we're going to do is a Celtic knot wire with a bead attached, and or dangle with a bead attached. And I really love this. One of the really nice things about using leather is it's very lightweight. I'm using one single glass bead on the end of it. The only thing that you need to be aware of is that you need to make sure that the bead will fit through the leather. The leather that I'm using today is 1 millimeter, so it'll go through about anything. 1.5, 2. You just need to make sure that your beads have holes big enough to go through your leather. So this, I'm using leather cord. I wanted to use some things that you can get at pretty much any craft store. So you can get this at any bead store or craft store, this size, the 1 millimeter. They've got a lot of other different sizes too, but I wanted to stick with something that wouldn't make your bead choice so difficult. So let's get started. Where are we? Where are we? Let's go down here to where you can see my hands. All right. So what I'm going to do is show you how to make this Celtic knot. And what I'm doing is I'm going to do it the first time with this long piece of wire, or long, I use wire so much that you're going to hear me say wire a lot by mistake. I noticed that. I'm using a long piece of leather cord because it's easier for you to see when I'm trying to make this particular knot. Otherwise, my fingers will be covering up all of the work that I'm doing, and you won't be able to see it. So the first time I show you, I'm going to show it on this long piece of leather that's a little bit easier for you to see. So what you're going to need, though, is 8 inches of cord. 8 inches of cord to get started. So in order to have this effect, what I did was measure 2 inches of cord. This is a little longer because, again, I want you to be able to see, but 2 inches of cord will be your short end. And then you're going to take your bead. I like to put the bead on first so I don't have to try to hold on to my cord and try to feed the bead on with one hand. So I put the bead on first, down at one end, and just ignore it. So I have my 2 inch expanse of the short end, and I'm going to take the long end and I'm going to loop it over to where that 2 inch mark is. And then I'm going to let my bead slide down until it meets, until it comes up against the folded edge. I don't want this bead to slide down into the loop that I just made. So what I'm going to do is put my finger behind it to keep it in place. The next thing I'm going to do is bring that long tail of wire under my loop and make a second loop. So now I have a loop with my bead and a loop that doesn't have a bead in it. And then I'm going to switch hands, hold on to my loops, bring that long tail across the short tail, and then grab it again with the other hand. So now you'll see that I have 2 loops and an opening in the center. So what I want to do is now is make my knot. So I'm going to bring my long tail up through the first loop where my bead is, down through the second opening, and then up through the remaining loop. Make sure that your bead stays in its own loop, and then I can start to pull my knot. So there's my Celtic knot. Just pull it down to the size that I want. And there it is. And I just need to adjust it down to, or up to the size that I want. If I want a bigger knot, I can just adjust until I get it the way I want it to look. I'm going to do that again with this, just to make sure that you saw everything that I did. So again, I have this poor piece of cord has been knotted and unknotted so many times that it's just completely mangled. But anyway, I'm going to take my bead down here to the long end out of my way, and I have my 2 inches of cord here. I'm going to loop the long edge around and under the short tail. I'm going to bring my bead down, let it drop down outside the loop. Then I'm going to bring my long tail under that first loop until I have a second loop. And I'm going to bring the long tail across over the short tail. And now you see I have a loop with a bead, a loop without a bead, and an opening in the center. I'm going to bring my long tail up through the first loop with the bead, down through the center opening, and up through the last loop. And you can see the knot there. There's the knot. I just need to adjust it to the size that I want, making sure to keep my bead down here in its own little loop away from the knot. And there's my Celtic knot with the bead dangle. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing to match my other earring. But I wanted to do it with that first because it's easier for you to see. So I'm going to measure out my 2 inches. Okay, there's my 2 inches right there. Let's go ahead and feed that bead on. Okay, and I'm going to bring that long tail around and under the short tail to right where my 2-inch mark is. I don't want to lose my bead, and I did. See, this is why I like to put it on first, because then I don't have to do this one-handed. That's okay. Okay, keep my bead outside my first loop. Bring that tail under the loop. Now I have 2 loops. Bring the tail over the other the short tail. And let's make our knot. So I have my bead loop, my other loop, and my center opening. You can see why I wanted to do this, oops, with the big piece of cord first, because I hope you can see what I'm doing. Okay, So I'm going to bring my tail up through the loop with the bead, down through the little center opening here, and up through the loop that's all by itself. And now it's time to form my knot. Just pull it until I have the knot the size that I want. And now I have one earring already done, so I need to match. So I'm going to take it, and this knot's a little bit bigger, so let's just kind of adjust it until I get the knot the size that I want to match my other earring. So let's see here. That looks pretty good. Best way to do it is to put one on top of the other. It's pretty good. Let's close up that center a little bit. Well, you want it as close as you can get. Just know, I mean, this is very organic, so it may not look exact, but you just want to get it as close as you can. Ooh, that looks pretty good. Let's get them side by side. A little bit smaller on the inside here. That's the fun about earrings. You're making two of the same thing. No, this is going to close up a little bit as soon as I do that, so it should be good. There we go. Those look good. Very nice. Now let's finish it off. Yeah, that looks good. Yes, I think so. So now we're going to make our wrap at the top here. So what I need for that, I used 24 gauge wire just because I wanted it to really match what I have here. And because it's so small, I'm going to double loop the top here. So what I'm going to do is get about 6 inches of wire. So I have plenty for my wrap. And then I'm going to come down, take my round nose. Oh, I forgot to tell you what pliers you need. You need your round nose pliers, your flat nose pliers, and your cutters, as per usual. Okay, so I want to go down about 1.5 inches to give myself plenty of space to wrap. So I'm going to measure 1.5 inches. And then I'm going to make a loop. Go all the way around. So I'm going to check and see, make sure it's about the same size as the other one. Okay, and then I'm going to make a second loop. Because again, I'm using 24 gauge. I want it to be nice and strong. If you're using 22 or 20, you don't have to double wrap it, but you can, but you don't have to. Okay, so now I have a double loop. And I'm going to bring the edges of my cord together. Before I do anything, I'm going to check again, make sure everything looks like it's correct. Yes. Okay. I'm going to clip off this excess here. I'm going to bring my my wire down between the folds of the cord. And what I'm going to do is bend it so that the two wires are together. And I want this to be the same length of wrap as on the other one. So I need to clip off this little end that I don't need. I want it to match. So I'm going to lay it down, clip off this end here that I don't need on the short side. Double check. Okay. All right. Slide my wire down in between the folds of the leather. This is the trickiest part. This is the part where you say, if only I had one more hand. And you can bring the ends of the leather up a little higher, and you're going to wrap and then clip them off later. But you just want to get a nice good grip on that. Put that wire in between the folds of the leather. Slide it up, the leather up to the top where your ring is. And now I want to bend my long wire out to the side and start my wrap. And I'm holding on to the ring and the short tail of wire nice and tight until I get my wrap started. And I'm going from the bottom to the top. I'm going to check and make sure they look about the same. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And I'm going to start my wrap. Make it nice and tight. This is why the 24 gauge is good, because I can make it really tight. And it's easy, 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 easy to wrap. Okay. I get up here to the top where I just have a teeny tiny piece of wire left. Just gonna push it around. And then push down the end so it's not sticking up. And again, organic. It's a very, very organic wrap. Now, I'm looking at this and it's like, oh, wow, this one is not as thick as that one. So what do I do? Oh, no. Add more wire. Very easy. Very simple premise. And I used 6 inches. I probably used more for that. And then what I did was I didn't want to waste it, so I just kept wrapping. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to add some more wire. I'm going to add another 4 inches. So 10 all together. I'm going to start by feeding it in between the folds so I have it anchored. Spin that. And wrap. Just wrapping over the tail, and that'll give it some more thickness too. Okay, get to the end here. Push down that end until it's kind of hidden in between the other folds. Much closer. There we go. Nice. Push that up a little bit so it's closer to the same length. Just getting that end tucked. There we go. Not bad. Very nice. There we have it. There are earrings. Lovely. Now, the next thing that you can do is either use a standard ear wire, or you can make one. And for that, I'm going to use some 20 gauge wire. I have this in a little baggie because that's for the next pair of earrings. I have a little stuff in there. Come out, come out. There. Okay. We'll put it out since I'm going to be using it. Okay, 20 gauge wire. I just need about 2 1/4 to 2.5 inches. I might end up cutting some off of 20 gauge wire in the color of your choice. Just take my round nose pliers and make a small loop. Just grab the tip of my wire with the tip of my pliers and I slide it down about, well, it depends on how big you want it to be, and it doesn't need to be too big. So just about 1/8 of an inch away from the tip. And I just make a loop. Just rotate the pliers until I have a nice loop there at the bottom. And then for my ear wire, since I've already got one made, I'm going to check. As a matter of fact, that loop is a little tiny bit bigger than the other one. So let's make it a little smaller. That's better. So for my ear wire, this one, I just measure off half an inch above the loop. And I'm going to go down to the base of my pliers. Just slide my wire down to the very base of my pliers. And I'm going to, in the opposite direction of where the loop ends. So here's my loop. This is the bottom of my loop. This is the top of my loop. And I'm going to bring my wire around until it meets the top of my loop. And this is curved the other way, so I want to make sure it's got a nice curve in it. So I'm going to open that out. You can also do this over something bigger, which is what I probably should have done. You can do it over a pencil. You can do it over an ink pen. Just something to give it a nice little curve. So there's my curve. It's a little beat up. There we go. Okay, so now there's my start of my ear wire, and I just want to bring my finger down and just kind of give it a little graceful curve, just like that. Just give it a little curve and adjust it to the way I want it to be. And then I'm going to measure against the other one so I can get it about the same size. Just bring that in a little bit. The easiest way to do ear wires is to make them both at the same time. And you don't have to make so many adjustments to the second one to match the first one. Here we go. That's better. Now I just need to cut off the length, match the length. Okay, so I'm going to cut off about that much on the tail. That looks good. Cut this loop down just a little more to match the other one. And I think we have it. There we go. Just attach my loop. close it up. And there we have it. Yay. Nice pair of Celtic Knot earrings. I love them. I always do. And if you need to make any adjustments, you can do that. Let's see where my knot could be a little, my loop could be a little bigger so I can slide it up a little bit more. Here we go. Very nice. Earrings number 1. Yay. Okay, let's put those off to the side. I will be wearing them. Lovely. That's one of the fun things about doing this is I end up with all kinds of lovely pieces of jewelry. Okay, let me set up for the next one. I'll be right back. All right, for our second pair of earrings, we're going to make this double loop. Very simple double loop leather hoop earring with the dangle in the center. You don't have to make the dangle if you don't want to. I just thought it was kind of interesting. So what I'm using for this is 2 pieces of cord. One is a natural leather, and the other one's a dyed leather. I did one dyed red and one that's natural saddle brown. And you're going to need 2 pieces, one a little bit shorter than the other, depending on the size hoops that you want. And the ones that the one that I'm doing has the larger hoop is 5 inches long, and the smaller hoop is about 4.5 inches long. You want to probably give yourself at least half an inch of distance, depending on how different you want your hoops to be. And with this, excuse me, you don't have to stop at 2 hoops. You can make 2 or 3 hoops. It's entirely up to you as to how many of these you want to make. And I thought it would be easier to show you the 2 hoops. And so what we're going to do is we're going to be making our own wraps to hold the hoops together, and our own split ring to attach to the ear wire. And we're going to wrap, do a little simple wrap for our dangle. Now what I'm using for the dangle is some of my, what I got from Ecuador. So I'm using my, what are these? They're not a side. Oh, Tagua. I'm using these Tagua nets. I got these, I ordered these just before the pandemic hit, and it took forever to get them through customs. But I finally got them, and now I have no outlet except to show you how to use them. This is not, unfortunately, something you can get in the store, but you should be able to find it on Etsy. Somebody's got them. As a matter of fact, a lot of somebody's have them. You may even be able to get them through Amazon, but I would just be careful and make sure that you're getting authentic Tagua nets. But anyway, this is what we're making today. So the first thing that you're going to do is put your the cords together for your hoops. So what I want to do is put my short cord and my long cord together with the tails, with the ends meeting, and then I'm going to make a wrap. And for that, I need, or I'm using, it's 3.5 inches of wire. And it depends on how much you want it wrapped, but you want to give your 4 inches. 4 inches of wire, you want to give yourself plenty so that you can make your loop and your wrap. So the first thing I'm going to do is make a loop again. This time doesn't have to be a double loop because this is 20 gauge wire, so it's very substantial. So I'm going to make a loop. I'm going to go down about 1/2 inch, maybe a little more, no, about 1/2 inch, and I'm going to make a loop. So I'm going to bring that short tail over and wrap until I have a nice loop. That might be a little bigger than I need, so let's bring that down a little bit. And all I need to do that is to scoot it down my pliers and pull until it closes up a little bit. So I want it to match the other one. Okay, a little tiny bit smaller. Tail till it closes. And there we go. All right. So now I'm ready to start my wrap. So I have my tail, and I need to bend this long end down until it matches. It goes the same direction as the short tail for now, for the moment. I'm going to bend that down. So that they're both going in the same direction. There we go. I'm going to make that loop a little smaller again. It's looking a little large. And again, it's so much easier if you do your earrings both at the same time. Easier to get everything to match up the way you want it. Sorry about all the back and forth. There, finally, my goodness gracious sakes alive. All right. Let's fix my loop. All right, so now I have my two ends together, and I'm going to bring my wire back to me. We're going to do like we did the other time, with the other one. I'm going to slide that down between the two folds. Now, I want to make sure that my tail is not sticking out too far, because I only want to wrap down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So I only want 6 wraps. So I want to cut off the end of the tail that I don't need. So I'm going to cut it down until I only have about 1/8 of an inch. In this case, I'm just matching the other one. So yeah, about 1/8 of an inch. Check that again. Check, double check, triple check, just to make sure. It could be a little shorter. coated wire and it does not want to cooperate with me. It's fighting to stay alive. There, gee, that's okay. Let's cut that down to about 1/8. I think we're good. Check again, be sure. I think we're good. I'll take a little tiny bit more off the tail there. All right. Now, finally, put the ends of my leather cord together. Slide the 2 ends of my wire down between the cord. And I want the ends of my cord to be up at the loop. Then I'm going to bend the long tail of wire back until it's horizontal. So I'm going to take it out so you can see. So there's the short end. There's the long tail. And I'm going to put it back between the folds again. And I want the flat round part, the ring, to be facing away from the folds. I'm trying to think of a good way to say that. The ring should be facing up and the cords should be out on either side of it. If I can get this in here so that I can lay it down and show you what I mean, I will. So there's my ring, and my cords are going to be on either side. Like that. So there's the flat of my ring, cords on either side. And you'll be able to see that once I get it finished, but I want to make sure that it's laying in there the correct way. Okay. I'm going to grab my long tail and start my wrap. And again, the starting of the wrap is the most challenging. You can hold it with your fingers, or you can use your pliers to hold it. And again, there's the ring, and there are the 2 cords on either side. And then there's the long tail. And I'm going to start my wrap from the bottom. And I want to make it nice and tight. Starting from the bottom and working up to the top. And this one, you're not overlapping the rings like we did on with the small cord. You're wrapping one beside the other. And keep wrapping, and you want them nice and close together. And remember, I said that the cord should be up beyond the loop because we're going to cut that off. Make sure you don't cut your wire. That would be devastating. That last loop in there. See if I can push this down a little bit more. That tail down. There we go. Nice and firm. Okay, there we go. And now we're going to go to the other side and do the same thing. And you see, you have one, of course, longer than the other. So I'm going to push down on the one that's longer until the ends meet. And I want to make sure that the shorter cord is not twisted behind the other cord. I want to make sure that they hang properly. So I've got my two tails together again, but before I do that, I'm going to make my loop down about 1.5 inches or so. And 1/3 of the way down my pliers. Let's see here. Yeah. Actually, on this one, we only need to go down 1/2 inch. Make my loop. Bring my tail down to meet. There we go. One behind the other, the short one behind the long one, or the long one behind the short one, depending on how you look at it. They should be about side by side, like so. Two cords together. On the ends until they meet. Okay, let's check my length. Let's cut it down to about 1/8 of an inch again. Make sure you separate it away from the second wire so that you don't cut them both. Clip that off. Bend that tail, the long tail, so I can do my wrap. Slide that down, those two ends down in between the leather. Again, grab it with your fingers or with your pliers, whichever works for you better. Starting is the challenge. Slide that up a little higher than my loop. I can clip that off later. I need to move my bends down a little. There we go. Okay. Good. Wire in between. I find it's easier to bend it afterwards because then I only have this little teeny tiny tail to hold on to. But some people might find it a little easier to go ahead and do your bend, but I've tried it both ways. I like to do the bend first, but I like to show you a couple of options. Okay, so I've got my everything captured and I can start my wrap. Make sure that your wire doesn't shift. I mean, your leather doesn't shift. Oh my gosh, my stomach's growling. Stop that. Stop making that noise. Okay, I want to make that wrap nice and tight. Make sure that my leather stays side by side and doesn't crowd the other or flip over to the other side. Okay, get a nice tight wrap in there. Kind of clamp it down a little bit with my pliers. Not too much. I don't want it to be flat, but I do want it to be nice and tight. Continue my wrap. One beside the other, not on top of each other, but beside each other. When I get near the top, I'm going to go ahead and cut down these tails. Again, be very aware of where your wire is. We're only cutting the leather. And continue my wrap. And I move the pliers up a little each time so I can keep hold of it. And then I'll get to the point where I can shift and hold it at the bottom instead of the top and continue my wrap until I've enclosed the ends. But I just continue to tighten it with my pliers until my wrap is complete. And then flip off the end if you need to. Pull up my ring here. Smush down my end so it won't snag on anything. It's nice and snug, nice and tight. And there we go. And there's our hoop portion. So now I'm going to make my dangle. It's going to be a very simple, kind of messy loop or messy wrap, very organic wrap, which is one of the things I like a lot. Just keeping it natural. I mean, we're using natural beads, we're using natural leather. May as well continue with the natural process. So I'm going to give myself about 3 inches of wire. To match up my other wrap. Excuse me, I don't know what's going on with my gastronomical system today. It's making racket. It's embarrassing. So anyway, so let's make a wrapped loop. So I'm going to go down about 1.25 inches because I'm just going to be it's going to be a very simple wrapped loop. I'm going to bend my wire back until it's horizontal to the long end. And I'm going to make a nice little loop. Place my pliers on top of my wire. Bring the short end over and around until it's going down the side of my pliers. And then I'm without taking my pliers out of the loop, I'm just going to flip it until it's horizontal above the loop. And bring up that tail underneath and wrap it around. Now you can either wrap it with the pliers inside the loop under the pliers, or you can take it out and wrap it while holding the side, whichever works for you. They're both equally sufficient or efficient, or both. And we're just going to wrap it around a couple of times. I did 2.5 on this one, so we'll do the same thing here. My short tail. Use my pliers to get that other wrap there. That looks like it. Squish that down, clip off my end. Darn, that kind of flew. I did not rein it in. Take my pliers and smash down the end so it doesn't snag your clothes or your ears. Okay, and now I'm going to put on my beads. So I have my red tagua chip on top, so that goes first. And my yellow button follows. Now this is only about 1.5 inches, so that's all I need. So I can cut off the remainder. Holding on to the tail here. Clip that off. And let's make our spiral. It's a nice big spiral. So I'm going to grab the tip of my wire with the tip of my pliers, and I'm going to take it about 1/3 of the way down my pliers. Just depends on the look that you want. I want a nice open spiral. And I'm just going to wrap the wire around itself. I want to kind of match this as much as I can. Okay. Got one more 1/2 a loop to go here. A little closer. Like the other one. And I'm going to go back in here and bend it so that my spiral is under the wire. Now I can see this one's a little bit bigger than the other one, so I'm going to make some adjustments. Basically, what I'm going to do is close this up a little bit. Close this inside loop up a little. And then push until I have a smaller, slightly smaller spiral so that it matches closer to the one that I've already done. If you can see that. There we go. I'm going to go in there with the tip of my round nose pliers and bend this back so it's under my beads. There we go. Yeah, there we go. So now, last but not least, I need to make my split ring that holds all of the pieces together. And I'm going to leave the wire on the spool because all I'm going to do is make a little split ring. And if I cut it off, then I'm going to end up losing probably a good 1/2 inch of wire, and I don't want to do that. So all I want to do is make my split ring about the same size as the one I have on the first earring. And what I did was go about 3/4 of the way down. As a matter of fact, I think I went all the way down to the back of my pliers because I wanted a big ring that would hold this open a little bit. So I'm going to go all the way down to the hilt of my pliers and grab my wire with the tip. I don't want the tip to be sticking out too much. And one trick that I've learned that I like to do is give it a little bend before I even start. Then I can go down to the very back of my pliers, grab my wire, and it's already hooking over the pliers and starting my turn. So now I'm going to start to rotate my pliers until I have 2 loops, 2 full loops. And I like the tail of my wire to be going out toward the end of my pliers so that I can make the loops a consistent shape, or a consistent size, I mean. Okay, so there are my loops. As you can see, I want 2 loops, but that end there, I want to clip off a little bit. So now I'm going to clip just the last loop. Don't want to clip the center one or the other one. I want to just clip that last loop that's closest to the spool. Clip that off. And then clip down this other end right there where the first end meets. Again, be wary of your center loop. You don't want to cut that. Okay, and now I have a split ring. Now to attach everything, all I need to do is open up one side of my split, like so. Slide on my dangle. Just rotate it until it's in the center of the split ring. And then attach the other 2. Again, you want to take it to the center. Went too far. Let's put that back on. Let's attach these first. So I've got one side. A little dangle. And the other one. Biggest thing about a split ring is making sure that everything's dangling in the center of it. And honestly, if you don't want a split ring, you can just use a regular jump ring. I just do it because I like the security of the double ring. Okay, let's put the other side on. Me and my concentration, and I forget to talk to you. I'm just rotating around until everything is in place. Neck off. Get that centered on my double ring. So those two are on. Now I just need to get my dangle on. Close everything up. Bring my ends together. Sure everything's dangling the way I want it. And there we go. Close up those ends. There. Ta-da. Shape my leather. There we go. And now all we need is an ear wire. And again, I've already showed you how to make an ear wire. So I'm going to take it off of this one and just show you how to attach. Just open your ear wire up. Attach it to my jump ring, my split ring. Close it. And there we go. Kind of awesome, if I must say so myself. Those are cute. Ta-da! Whew. Okay, now I think we're going to do one more. Let's see if we have time for one more. Let me go ahead and get everything out of the way and get set up for the third one. All right, the third one, I don't know why I showed you the two more challenging ones first, but by the time you get to this one, you'll be tired. So the third one we're going to do is just a single loop, a single hoop with a dangle at the bottom and a wrapped bead. So I'm going to show you the wrapped bead first. Very simple. We need 20 gauge wire, which is actually down here somewhere. There we go. So we're going to use 20 gauge wire, and all I need is about, it depends. It depends on how big a wrap you want to do and how big you want your embellishment on your bead to be. We're going to do a very simple wrapped loop and a tight spiral. So I'm going to give myself about 3 inches of wire. I need, again, to match up with the other one. So what I'm going to do is the spiral first, because it's easier to match it up that way. So I'm going to make a nice little tight spiral like this one. The first thing I'm going to do is grab my round nose pliers and make a tiny, tiny little loop. So I'm going to take the tip of my pliers to the tip of my wire and make a loop. Just like that. And then I'm going to take my flat pliers and I'm going to grab the side of my loop and I'm going to start wrapping. A nice tight wrap. I'm going to really wrap the wire around itself, beside itself, not on top of it, as closely as I can get. And you'll be able to see the spiral starting to form. And I want to emulate what I have here. So I'm going to keep an eye on that. It looks like about 4 wraps all the way around, nice and tight and close. And there we go. It's about 3 wraps. 1, 2, 3. Yes. There we go. And then I'm going to take my round nose pliers or my fingers. You don't have to use pliers if you don't want to. And this wire that's going straight up beside the spiral needs to go under the spiral. So I'm going to bend it back so that there's the spiral either on top or on bottom, however you think of it. But the spiral is actually going to be under the bead. So I'm going to slide my bead on. I'm using a nice little opalite for this one. Slide my bead on, and now I'm going to make my wrapped loop. And as you can see, I did not need 3 inches. I probably only needed 2 inches, but it's better to have too much than too little. So I'm going to take my pliers. I'm going to slide my wire down about 1/3 of the way down my pliers. And I'm going to make a loop. But first, I'm going to take the tip of my pliers and bend my wire back until it's horizontal, because I want to have space under here to wrap. So now I'm going to put my pliers in about 1/3 of the way down, make a loop, spring the wire across and over my pliers until I have 2/3 of a loop there. Then I'm going to bring it all the way around under my pliers until I have a full loop. And I'm going to wrap. Now you can do this 2 different ways. You can either go ahead and complete your wrap now and then put it on your leather cord, or you can wrap it around the leather cord. I find this way to be a little bit easier than trying to wrap it around the cord. Now I'm going to grab my loop on the side and I'm going to wrap. And I only wrap this one 2.5 times. So that's all I need to do. 1 wrap, 2 wraps. And again, I'm going down towards the bead and 1/2. Clip that off. I like to move it away, the tail away from the wrapped portion, so I don't accidentally scratch or nick or cut the wrapped portion. And then I cut it. I like to hold on to my tail and my bead so that this wire doesn't go flying across the room, which it will if I'm not paying attention. And then I'm going to snug down the tip. I have this little coating on here so I don't scratch my wire. And as you can see, it's getting really ragged. I'm going to have to apply it again. Squish down my little wire here until it's nice and snugly resting against the rest of my wire. And there is my wrapped bead. Yeah. Okay, so last but not, well, not last, but the next thing that I need to do is my loop. It's going to be really easy. We've already done this with the first one. I'm using 24 gauge wire again. So what I'm going to do is give myself a double loop at the top. I'm going to go down about 1.5 inches, guesstimating. Give myself a nice loop. I'm going to go down about 3/4 of the way down my pliers, because that's about where I was on this one. Can't get all the way down there because of the wrap. That's where I was. So I'm going to go about 3/4 of the way down. And I'm going to give myself a nice loop and a second loop. Take my pliers out, go back in around both of my loops, both of my wires, and I'm going to continue my loop. Okay, so I have a nice double loop here. Just like this one. That's a little bit bigger, so I'm going to make my loop a little smaller. Again, I keep saying this. It's easier when you do them both at the same time. And you don't have to worry about adjusting as much. Okay, let's check the size now. See where I am. There we go. Yes. Very good. Let's bring them both together until they're both the same, going in the same direction, like so. And I want my wraps to be the same length. So I'm going to put those together. And this is where, right down here, where the bottom of my wrap is where I need to clip off the short tail of wire that I have here. So it's about a 1/4 inch. Yes. So let's clip that off. Again, I'm holding on to that tail. I don't want to lose it. Get that out of my way. Grab my leather, put the ends together. Again, I'm sliding my wire down till it rests between the folds of my leather. And I'm going to wrap. And bring the leather up a little bit beyond the loop, and I can clip it off later. It just gives me some leverage and something to hold on to. These ends to match up. And they don't have to be exact because you can clip. There we go. So now what I want to do is bend the long tail of wire out to the side and start my wrap. Now, I want this as close together as I can get without it overlapping. And then I'm going to start a nice tight wrap. And again, and I keep saying this, I want to make sure that it's not overlapping. So I'm going to give it 2 wraps. And then I'm going to check and make sure the length is correct. Yes, that looks about right. Nice tight wrap. Okay. And then when I get up to the top here, because there's very little to hold it, I like to make it a little looser and a little bigger so it's consistent with the rest of it. And honestly, I did not need this much wire. I think I cut enough for 2, forgetting that I'd already made one. What can I say? Okay, nice and tight. There we go. Squeeze that in. There we go. Nice. Bring that down a little bit. Give it an extra wrap around the bottom because I think that other one was just a teeny tiny bit longer. There we go. All right. And guess what I forgot to do? I forgot to put my bead on. Oh! So guess what I'm going to do? I am going to unwrap this and rewrap it on the leather. So I'll be able to show you both ways. You could have done it this way and just strung it over and not had it have to rewrap it like I'm going to do. But sometimes bad things make good experiences, good learning experiences. So I'm going to cut that off. Push down my wire. Here's my second earring without my little dangle dog on it. So taking this apart, Let's get that off. Such a shame. Such a waste of wire. All right. I think I said 2 inches, didn't I? Because I cut 3 and I didn't really need that much, but I'm not taking any chances. I'm giving myself 3 inches. I have to cut it off. I have to cut it off. All right, so let's make our tiny little loop for our spiral. Wow, my cuticles look horrible. Anyway, tiny little loop, grabbing the end of my wire with the tip of my pliers and make a loop. Just a little teeny tiny one, just like so. Then I'm going to take my flat pliers, grab the side of my loop, and make a nice, make a nice close spiral, wrapping the wire closely around itself. And if I'm not mistaken, there was only 3 wraps, but let's check. Again, very close, very tight. Yeah, another half a wrap. I think we're good to match up with the other one. Let's push that little space out of there. Squeeze. And I think we have a winner. Probably another 1/4 of a wrap. I think that's about all I need. There we go. And now I need to take, I don't need pliers for this. I need to bend this wire so that instead of it being beside, running alongside of the spiral, it can be under or over the spiral, depending on how you look at it. In this case, it's actually over the spiral. So there's my spiral. And I'm going to put my bead on, and yes, I was right. I did not need 3 inches. 2 would have done nicely. So let's check this out. Yeah, they look pretty good. Take my round nose pliers and grab the tip, put the tip of my pliers to my wire and make a little bend until it's horizontal. Slide it in this case, I think it was 1/3 of the way down my pliers so I can get a nice loop the same size as the other one. Wrap my tail across the top of my pliers until I have 3/4 of a loop. Then flip my pliers around until they're horizontal above the bead and bring my wire around the rest of the way until I have a full loop. Grab my loop with my pliers and stop, because I need to put this on here and I can't do that if it's closed. So what I want to do before I close this up is slide my wire, that tail of wire, over the leather until I have the leather dangling in my loop. And now I'm going to grab the side of my wire, the side of my loop, and wrap the rest of my loop. One wrap, It was 2.5 reps, 2 and 1/2. And now I can cut it off. Make sure you don't cut your loops, your spiral, your loops. Just want to cut the end as close as you can get without damaging your loops. And take my pliers, clamp down that end so that it doesn't scratch you in any way. There we go. And voila, there we go. Ta-da. And again, we're going to make an ear wire. Actually, I'm not going to make an ear wire. I've made enough ear wires. You get the picture. You just make, you can either use a store-bought ear wire or you can make an ear wire. And I did this in silver, so you can very easily just do a store-bought ear wire. But that, my dears, is our program for today. We did 3 lovely pairs of earrings. I borrowed the ear wire off of that one to put on this one, so that's why it's missing one. And there we are. That's awesome. Let's get under here. We can get a nice, good view of what we've done today. Ta-da! Isn't that neat? I love mixed media work. I think it's just so much fun to be able to take all kinds of different components and put them together to make one artistic piece. In this case, 3 artistic pieces. Ah, so much fun. Anyway, that is, we got 3 things out of one video today, 3 pairs of earrings. So that is our show for today, folks. That is our tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you will take advantage of this and use what you've learned here today to make your own earrings and show me what you've made, because that gives me great joy. Ah, I like these. 1, 2. Oops. This one doesn't swing because I don't have the ear wire on it, so it's just kind of sitting there. There's 2 and 3, and I'm going to put wire on this one so you get a better view of it swinging from the end of the ear wire. Come on, I don't have my glasses on, so I can't see what the heck I'm doing. Okay, here we go. Come on, open, open, open. Oh, Stop. Ta-da! Awesome. I think we did good things today. Lots of good things. I keep showing them to you like you haven't seen them already, and you haven't been looking at them for what, hour and a half or something like that? Craziness. Ta-da! Anyway, that's it. That's it for today. More earrings. I am so glad I got to do the leather. I've been wanting to do something different than other than just plain wire. And I wanted to show you how to incorporate several different components. So that's what we did today. We have our Celtic knot, we have our double loop, and we have our single loop, and we have our dangles. Had a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you will come back. I hope that you will make these because I want to see what you make. I really do. And I really want to hear about what you think of the classes that we're offering, the tutorials that we're offering. And if you would like to suggest any, if you would like to give any suggestions about things that you would like to see us do, I certainly am open to that. But until next time, enjoy the weekend, enjoy the week, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.